Good evening and welcome to Sporlitiks, where sports and politics mix and mingle. I'm Stacey Johnson. Joining me tonight is Aguna, who's off, the Nigerian moderate Republican, Keith, the constitutional conservative, Stephen, the independent thinker, and my cousin Todd. I wonder what Aguna would say about you, Todd. Hours ago, seriously though, a shooting at East High School in Denver, Colorado, leaves 2 adults injured. The known high school student is on the run, as police say, as the Virginia teacher shot by a 6-year-old. Remember her? She's suing the administration of the school, and South Carolina teachers activists revolt against a conservative school board called Christian Nationalists. The Protect Education rally was held by the Low County Up is Good Political Action Committee down there in South Carolina. Joey Logano wins in Atlanta NASCAR race. Stephen will talk about that. Federal Chairman Jerome Powell announces today the Federal Reserve is prepared to use all tools necessary to keep the banking system safe as the United States Secretary of the Treasury. Simultaneously, Janet Yellen told lawmakers today that the Federal Deposit Insurance Corporation, FDIC, was not considering providing blanket insurance for banking deposits following the collapse of 2 prominent U.S. banks this month. March Madness brackets are busted as the 16th seed Fairleigh Dickinson University took down 1 seed Purdue, and 15th seed Ivy League Princeton Tigers defeated both Arizona and Missouri to now face 6th seed Creighton this Friday night. Politico reports DeSantis's anti-woke law remains blocked in Florida colleges. U.S. District Judge Mark Walker determined the anti-woke law is positively dystopian. Ja Morant will play in the Memphis Grizzlies versus Houston Rockets game tonight. And according to Fox News, former President Trump's hush money grand jury proceedings are canceled or were canceled for today. Grand jury proceedings canceled amid a major dissension in the district attorney's office. USA Today says antibiotics won't work. They won't work against a strain of a nasty stomach bug, and it is spreading as doctors become more concerned. A video shows Ervo Antiano being pinned to the floor in the moments before his death, and more if we can fit it in. First up, Stephen, Joey Logano won NASCAR in Atlanta. What was that about?
Joey Logano stole this race. Brad Keselowski had it. It was in his hands. It was so easy. And then in the last few laps, it was Keselowski. Last few laps, Keselowski. Getting closer, Keselowski. And all of a sudden, out of nowhere came Joey Logano and won the race. And it was, all in all, it was a really good race. And it had a really dramatic finish at the end that did not include a crash. But it was really dramatic the way these cars race each other. And the car that you didn't think was going to win the race for a very long time ends up coming up and winning the race. That's what makes NASCAR good. But the Xfinity race the night before, the guys that are working their way up to this level, they had an excellent race as well, but an even a better race because they use old style cars compared to these new style cars. And it's a whole different feel. It's a whole different race. And it's like going back just a couple of years ago, because these cars now are so different, but they're good on their own. Just like FS1 or whatever, they're really good for what it is. And NASCAR is really good for what it is. But the Xfinity cars are just like cars on the street a lot, like it's almost the old school thing in the 70s. So at the end of this race, it was a huge crash. Everybody's trying to the leader of the race is doing like this. He gets hit. He ends up winning. Another guy that came in third came in backwards. It's just old school fun racing, and it was certainly enjoyable and a really good weekend. We got the first road course this week, and I love road courses. If anybody's listened to the show before.
Okay, what is a road course?
That's when they don't just make.
Like Todd, he doesn't know.
They don't just make right turns. That's all they do is generally circles, kind of squares, oblongs, things like that. That's how they race. This is a race. It's a road course, which they go like this the whole time through. It can be 21 turns, 24 turns, and up the hill, down the hill. It's so much to do, and these guys are working so hard. It makes it a lot more fun. And 20 years ago, I didn't like them that much as a purist at the time, but they grew on me and they became my favorite. And there's other races I like that aren't road courses, but these are generally a lot of fun.
All right, great. Thank you. Now we'll talk real quickly. I want to share my screen about March Madness. It was no need for us to even do any brackets because the brackets were busted immediately when the Ivy League team Princeton beat Fairleigh Dickinson beat
Purdue.
No, they beat
number one seed.
Yeah. Second time it's happened in history. Second time it's happened in history.
Well, I don't know about that because I thought they beat the Phillies last time.
But this was crazy because the team that Fairleigh who beat Purdue was not even supposed to be in the game because they played a conference game and lost it. They should have gone home, but they didn't because the team that beat them were a Division II the year before. You have to be a Division I for 2 years, so they couldn't even play in the game. So by default, the team that beat Purdue, Fairleigh Dickinson, was not even supposed to be there. And this is, to me, it's the biggest upset ever. In 2019, UVA lost to whoever, doesn't matter, but UVA lost, and that was the first time it ever happened. So people are going to stick for that forever. This is the first. But this is the first time a team that shouldn't even have been there came and won. And let me tell you something else on a gambler's point of view, really quick. The next week, they're going to play. I don't know, some team that's was ranked 9 when it all started. I can't think of the name of it. Alabama squared or something. I can't remember.
Now look at that. I've got it up right here. You want to look at it right here?
Yeah, I can't hardly see it where I am.
So whose team are you saying they're going to play? Because it's this Friday. So this Friday, who are you saying?
Flyers.
No, I'm in the wrong thing. Wait a minute. I'm not talking about who they're going to play, Stacy. What I'm talking about is, I can't get. It's just it's a small thing.
That's all right. You don't know anything about football. That's okay.
No. What I'm saying is that this game this past weekend, after they beat Purdue, one of the number 1 teams, Stacy. After they beat Purdue, they were. Wait a minute, Stacy. They were a 15.5-point underdog. Fairleigh Dickinson was a 15.5-point underdog. Now, if you didn't take those 15.5 points, I can't help you. That was the easiest thing to do. Is it on that side or this side?
You said underdog.
Oh, well.
It's not there. It's on the other side, I think.
It's on the other side? I was trying to find it.
Or it's up. It's up.
Was doing his jokes.
It's up or down. It's not here somewhere. I don't know where it is.
Wait a minute. I don't even see it.
Todd was joking.
Okay, let me see if I see Fairleigh here. Do you see them? I don't see Gonzaga, UCLA.
No, I think they're on the opposite.
That's Michigan State, Kansas State, Tennessee.
Yeah, there they are.
Atlantic,
Fairleigh, Purdue. Princeton, they played Florida. Stacy, they played Florida Atlantic after they beat Purdue, and they were a 15.5-point underdog. They never should have been an underdog by 15.5 points, if an underdog, and maybe 7 points. But they gave that game to everybody. There's no way that a team just beat Purdue, but they can't beat a team that's not even in nearly the same league as Purdue is. It was a gift. It was a real gift.
Florida Atlantic beat Fairleigh Dickinson.
Is that
right.
Florida? Is that the Miami Dolphins?
But they didn't cover the spread, Stacy.
Yeah.
Okay. Goodbye, because Steven doesn't know what he's talking about.
Okay, so this weekend is going to be pretty exciting. I look forward to watching it. We're going to have Houston versus Miami, Xavier versus Texas, Arkansas against UConn, Gonzaga against UCLA, Michigan State against Kansas State, Tennessee against Florida Atlantic, Princeton against Creighton, and San Diego State against Alabama. And it's pretty unusual for us to see Alabama in basketball in the Sweet 16. We're used to seeing Alabama in football winning everything.
They got it going on, Stacy, all the way around.
All right.
They got it going on.
Sounds good.
I'm going to take Alabama and lay the 7.5 on this game.
You're going to lay 7 what?
7.5 points.
As opposed to 69. Oh, you're talking about, I thought you were, never mind. You know what? Just forget I said anything.
Todd, you're behind.
We can't.
Here.
Okay.
Yeah, Todd, you're behind the juke. Anyway, let's move on to your player you've been talking about, Stephen, Ja Morant.
Ja Morant. Oh, I thought him and Stephen always talk about, Stephen and Keith always talk about their favorite Bruce Jenner.
It was the one in the 70s winning all the medals.
So
Ja
Morant.
They never got, okay, go on.
Ja Morant, all-star point guard, will come off the bench for the first time in his career tonight against the Houston Rockets, a situation he suggested to the Memphis Grizzlies coaching staff as he returned from an 8-game suspension. What do you want to say about that?
Stacey, just my opinion. I think he's such a great player, and he's if without him they can't go very far. Something's messed up with the angles of the phone.
Stephen, you're not being. What's happening to your camera? Oh,
well, he wanted to show you pictures of Bruce Jenner and Steven Tyler, his favorite.
No, where are we at? Where Stacey? Should I just finish talking, Stacey?
Yeah, finish talking.
Okay. Well,
before you finish that, why do you have autographed pictures of Bruce Jenner and Steven Tyler?
That's great.
You have a crush on both of them?
Bruce Jenner was a great athlete at one time.
He was.
Man, the greatest.
Stacey, I do believe that Morant was just having fun that night, and if anything, he probably thought maybe it would get his street cred up a little bit. He's got enough money just to walk away from everything if he wants to right now. He's not beholden to anybody, and he's also, I think, that would help him. I got street cred. Plus, he's the best player on the team. He can rest. So, instead of faking an injury, maybe they said, well, let's kill 2 birds with 1 stone and have you pretend to hold up a gun that's not even real. Everybody knows it's a lighter. And then maybe you get suspended for a little while. Then you can just rest yourself and come back and win it all. Because I think he's for our time right now. He reminds me a lot of Jordan. Nobody else is Jordan, but he's got that kind of presence about him. And when he really puts it on like Jordan did, it's hard to stop this guy. So I think he needed a breather, and it's kind of like a story, and it's kind of funny. And most people know it's just a big joke. That's all it is. Just to me, it's just a big joke, and he's fine.
Okay,
and
I think that doesn't make any sense. That doesn't make any sense. I don't understand.
Why doesn't it make sense? It wasn't. A lot of people are saying it wasn't even a real gun. He was holding it like this.
So anyway, I don't get that, Stephen, but we're going to move on because that sounds a little crazy. Look at the NBA tonight. The Nuggets and the Wizards, they are tied. Can you see that, Stephen? That's your team.
No, my team is not the Wizards, but
Oh.
I hope they do okay. I don't root against them.
Okay. And then you'll see the Warriors versus the Mavericks at 7:30. But they should be playing because it's 7:45, but they must be playing on West Coast time. Then the Knicks versus the Heat, 2-0 first quarter, which is kind of weird to have 2 points. How can you have 2 points? Oh, one basket. Okay. Then the Pacers and the Raptors, 7-5. The Rockets versus the Grizzlies, 8 p.m. The Spurs versus the Bucks, 8 p.m. And I wanted to get to the most important team.
How could you say, how could they have 2 points?
I forgot they only do 2 points, but I was thinking,
football,
how could they only have how could they only have 2 points? You know, they've been playing.
They only scored 1 touchdown.
That's true.
They don't score touchdowns, Cousin Todd. I was thinking within all that period of time, it seems to me they should have been able to play or score more than 1 basket. And then we have the 76ers at the Chicago Bulls, the Hawks at the Timberwolves, the Trailblazers against the Jazz, Utah Jazz, Phoenix Suns against the Lakers, all taking place tonight. Go Sixers, go Sixers, go Sixers. Did I miss anything for sports before we move into politics? What were you going to say, Keith?
Nothing. I just said, wow. All those games.
Yeah, it's a lot of games.
Well, Stacey, do you think that Ja came back fast? A lot faster than maybe somebody else would?
I don't think that's fast after an 8-game suspension.
8-game suspension for having a gun in your hand?
Why? I don't understand. Why was he suspended?
I don't know. I don't know if it's too long or not enough time. I don't know. Because he's in a place, Keith, where you can't have a gun.
Oh, I see. All right. Well, whatever.
They frown on that in that establishment, Keith.
Yeah, they sure do. Bunch of idiots.
Well, if you're not allowed to have a gun, then you're not allowed to have one. So what would make them idiots for restricting him?
But I don't think it's a real gun. And I don't think he had a gun because he wanted a gun or needed a gun. Brother. I think he's surrounded by people who have guns. I think he's well taken care of. And it was something cheap that he did. It was just something he's trying to be funny. He's drunk 3 o'clock in the morning.
Stephen, stop making excuses for bad behavior.
Oh, I'm just giving you my opinion. I'm not making an excuse for any behavior. And I don't think it's all that bad.
Oh, God.
I don't think it was a real gun. If it turned out to be a real gun, then I would think a lot worse of him. But if it's just a lighter and he's just trying to be funny, he's trying to do something on social media because he's 23 or whatever, then that's what the kids do. And if somebody else did it, they might not get in trouble at all. And a lot of people know, oh yeah, that's not a gun, that's just a lighter. And if it turns out to be a gun, then it's just not cool. If you're in a place that says you can't have it and you're shaking it around, it's not cool. But if it's fake, and it's really not cool either to have it if it's fake. But he's just a superstar. These people have got a little bit more leeway.
Stephen, you sound ridiculous. You're going back.
No, he wouldn't have put it on social media if he thought it was something wrong. Like he didn't think he wasn't trying to shoot anybody. He wasn't trying to intimidate anybody. He just like whoop, he could have had a little knife, a switchblade, go shoo, shoo, like they used to do in the 50s. I got a switchblade. I don't think he had any malice about him. Do you agree with that?
I don't know.
I don't think he had any malice.
I don't know.
He was smiling like a little kid. He's like, hee.
All right. Well, I don't think that's anything to smile about or to joke about, to wave a gun. Guns hurt and kill people. I
understand how you feel, Stacey. 100%.
If you look at this article by CNN.com, a student shot, and this is search underway for student who shot 2 staff members at Denver High School. A male student shot and wounded 2 faculty members at a Denver high school today and then fled the scene, spurring a citywide search for his whereabouts, according to city officials. A few hours after the shooting, Denver Police Department tweeted a photo of the suspect and identified him as Austin Lyles, 17. He was connected to a 2005 red Volvo with a Colorado license plate. He's wanted for attempted homicide. This happened at about 9:50 a.m. Denver time. Police and medical responders arrived on the scene very quickly to find 2 adult men with gunshot wounds. One faculty member is in stable condition. The other is in critical condition. The student suspected in the shooting was under a school safety plan. And I'm going to ask Keith in a minute to explain what that was. He was under a school safety plan in which he was patted down each day. And during Wednesday's search today, a handgun was retrieved and several shots were fired in an office area in the front of the school away from other students and staff. Keith, what is a safety plan that students may have in schools?
Well, it's just a safety plan. You know, when they come to school, we check their backpacks, or we used to. They check their backpacks, but they don't search their person. They don't search their body. They just do a backpack check. And that's basically it. Sometimes they have the wand, the metal detector. They'll wave that. And then they have, well, that's it. That's really it. And the administrator is supposed to be, the principal is supposed to be there on site and, you know, the one who does it. The only people allowed to do the search in the presence of the administrator would be the security or the supervisors. You know, supervision.
So obviously that has happened before for you, where you have been present during a pat down search of a student. If a student, while you were present, if a student had discovered a gun and he just started shooting you, wouldn't it would seem to me that you would have, when you discovered the gun, taken it away from him so he couldn't shoot anyone?
Yeah, I don't understand that. I don't know. I don't quite know the details of that. That doesn't make sense. They discovered the gun and he pulled back and then just took a shot at him, or, I mean,
I don't.
That happened, Todd?
I don't know. And they didn't describe it in detail. I can imagine that he was hiding the gun. They were patting him down and he didn't want them to discover it, so he shot them. Now this particular boy was patted down every day. I don't know why that was. If
he was under a special, remember they said he was under a special safety plan. So that means maybe at the time he was a threat. If you look at the screen, you can see the students suspected, they knew who he was. The student suspected in the shooting was under a school safety plan in which he was patted down each day.
Right. So my point is this. Why was he such a threat? What was he doing or saying that made him such a threat? And if that's the case, if he's that big of a threat, why is he still in school?
Thank you.
Shouldn't he then be expelled?
Right on, Todd.
All right.
Wait a minute. Now that is an extreme case for an extreme child.
We know. We
I'm
agree
not
with
saying
you.
every problem child should be expelled.
We agree with you on this child. You're right, Todd.
That's right, Stephen. Todd.
Okay, I retract everything I just said. Now, but really, he must have been a danger for them to. First of all, I want to know the background of why he was singled out to be searched every day. Was he threatening people? Was he? We don't have the backstory to that. But for him to pat it down every day.
There's something there, Todd.
Yeah, where's his parents and all that?
Right. Yeah, exactly.
Does it say it in the article, Stacey? I didn't.
No.
Okay,
No.
well.
You know, and it's not
just terrible how this continues to happen over and over again. Where did he get this gun?
Hey, Todd, how does a 6-year-old go in there and shoot a teacher and nobody can get a gun away from a 6-year-old? They want to get a gun away from this guy They can't even get away from a 6-year-old. What is
No,
going
no,
on in this world?
that's not what I was talking about. Where did he
But I understand.
originally?
But Stacy said that it could have went in and grabbed the gun from him, right, Stacy? But somebody
No,
could
I
have
was
done that to a
asking Keith. I was asking Keith, when you're searching and patting someone down, Keith, what would you do if you detected and found during your pat down
He
and
would
search
take it.
a
Well,
gun?
we take it. Yeah, I would take it.
So
I
then
would
how can you take it and he's going to shoot at you?
Well, I would take it by force. I would, use the techniques that I know, a gun disarm technique. I would do my best to take it. Hopefully, I would be successful. Hopefully, I would. That's what you
So
asked.
Yeah.
speaking of students in schools with guns, this picture is of the Virginia teacher, as you can see,
Oh, it's
who
out there.
was shot and wounded. Can you see this?
Yeah.
You know where that is, Stephen?
Yes.
Oh,
Newport News. She was shot and wounded by
Near the
her
beach.
6-year-old student, and said it has changed her life, and she has vivid memories and nightmares about that day. She said, I just will never forget the look on his face that he gave me while he pointed the gun directly at me. Abby Schwerner said. She said, it changed me. It's changed my life. She said she's still in shock and she can't make sense of it. She said, I'm not sure when the shock will ever go away because of just how surreal it was and the vivid memories I have of that day. I think about it daily. Sometimes I have nightmares. This is the first time she spoke since the January 6th shooting. She's had a challenging recovery. She's had 4 surgeries, and some days she can't get up out of bed. Other days she can go about her day. For going through what I've gone through, I try to stay positive, try to have a positive outlook on life, what's happened and where my future is headed.
She should.
Now, where
so she was hospitalized, just a minute, and then I'll let you comment, Keith. She was hospitalized for nearly 2 weeks after being shot in the chest and left hand as she taught her class at Rich Neck Elementary School in Newport News, Virginia. In the moments after she was shot, she said the other first graders in her class were screaming. She said she was terrified, but her concern centered on the children. I just want to get the babies out of there. I think they knew as well as they had as well that they had to get out of there, but they were extremely frightened and screaming. She said what happened next is still kind of a blur. She knew she needed help. The fire alarm had gone off, heightening her awareness that she'd been shot. She had trouble breathing and her vision failed. She went to the office and passed out. I thought I had died. Horrible, horrible, horrible. Keith, what did you want to say?
Well, the details of it. What was I don't suppose they said the distance of the child. Was he on the other side of the room? Did he take it out of his backpack or out of his pocket? Where did he get this gun from all of a sudden?
He brought the gun to school, and I don't know.
From home.
And I don't know if you all remember me saying this when it happened on January 6th, but I said, there's no way in the world he stayed in school all day as a 6-year-old, first grader, stayed in school all day, had a gun in his backpack, and no one knew about it. That's not what 6-year-olds do. 6-year-olds believe in show and tell.
Wow.
They're 6 years old. Well, come to find out, other teachers did know. I knew he had to tell someone. There's no way in the world a 6-year-old can keep that type of secret. So let's look back at this article, and then Stephen, you can comment. It says Zwerner didn't know at the time, but her lung had collapsed and the bullet could have killed her. She likely survived because she put up her hands. She said the initial gunshot went through my left hand and ruptured the middle bone as well as the index finger and the thumb. It went into my chest up here where it actually still remains. So I have the scar up here and I still have some bullet fragments up there. At the hospital, she called her mother for the first time. She lives with her twin sister, who's taken care of her since she returned home.
You know,
Um,
that child should be taken away from the parents then, I guess. You know, the children's services. The parents are responsible for not
But
checking.
Stacey, are you saying that other people knew this kid had a gun?
okay, let me finish. Now look at this. It says the boy had fired his mother's gun, which police said was legally purchased. An attorney for the boy's family has said that the firearm was secured on a closet shelf and had a lock on it.
Well, how do
During
you,
the interview,
Something's
they
really
asked her,
weird. Something's really weird about this whole thing. How
during
does
the
a
interview,
6-year-old get
they
a
asked her,
gun?
what would justice
How does
mean
a
for her?
6-year-old get a gun? How does he have it in the school? How do people know he has it and they search him and they can't find his gun? None of this makes any sense. This is like a Huckleberry Finn book or something. It makes no sense at all.
Stephen,
This is fiction.
how do you get the lock off, Stephen? Did he
How
have
do you get the lock off? This is like a Hollywood story. This is made up. I can't conceive of a 6-year-old shooting his teacher. And like he said, where was he? All the way across the room? Is he a good shot?
Okay, so you're saying,
since he was
are
4?
you saying this didn't happen?
No, I'm not saying anything 100%. I'm just saying none of this makes sense. And if it makes sense to
Okay.
you, then you make no sense to me.
All right, now listen. This is how Donald Trump supporters get these conspiracy theories.
Everything's
going.
Donald Trump.
That's what you and Marjorie Taylor Greene think. So Marjorie Taylor Greene didn't believe in the Sandy Hook shootings.
I'm not saying I don't believe in shootings. I'm saying something is really bizarre. A Sandy Hook shooting was teenagers shooting kids.
Okay.
This is a 6-year-old shooting his teacher.
All right.
This is something out of a Stephen King novel that he never got published because people thought it was too absurd.
Okay, now you have to stop talking so you don't sound so stupid.
No, I don't sound stupid. Go ahead.
Absolutely
okay,
stupid.
let me stop you all there. Look at this article. It says
wait, Stacey, you can't. And this is what Aguna talks about. You just allowed him to say something stupid, and then you just jump right on. Instead of saying,
you think this is perfectly normal?
Instead of saying to him, Stephen,
yes,
that happened. This is why the news reported.
Right, it can happen. They're saying it happened. It probably happened. How does this happen? How does a 6-year-old shoot his teacher?
Can you stop talking?
No.
I know it's hard for you, but they have.
You talk as much as I do.
So the woman was shot
in a different dialect.
Dream it. She didn't make it up. She was shot.
Right. Okay. That's a given. She was shot.
Stop,
what you don't understand is I'm saying.
You got to let him finish.
Stephen, I know, but I'm saying, how can this happen? Is my point. How can this happen in school?
Okay, Stephen, you got to let him finish.
Right, but he's missing my point.
No, he's answering it the way he chooses to answer it.
My point is, how can this happen? It's real. She was shot. There's a little kid. How can this happen?
Stephen, you got to stop talking.
No, I'm stopped. Go ahead and say, how does this happen?
Stephen.
Go ahead.
If this weren't so dangerous, it would be funny. You have this Republican brain. This is the new Republican brain. It happened, period.
It happened.
How were you born? That happened. I don't understand how you were born. I just don't understand. It happened. Period.
I know it happened. I'm saying, how did it happen?
By a little boy taking out a gun and shooting his teacher.
How did that happen? How did he get the lock off? How did he get the gun? How did he stay at school all day? How did he shoot his teacher? It's inconceivable. If you don't see that, then it's your problem, not me.
Okay.
How did this happen? That a little boy
Stephen,
can
you gotta let him finish.
Teacher.
You've made your point, but now you've got to stop talking.
All right, go ahead, Todd. I thought he was done. I thought it was humiliating.
No, you interrupted him.
Of course you did. So anyway, the little boy got the gun from his mother and brought it to school, and he had been threatening to shoot other people. How does a little boy threaten to kill? Well,
stop it, Aguna. Stop egging him on, Aguna. Just make your point.
He's not egging me on.
So the little boy did that, and that gun belonged to his mother. And
Lie.
so that's what happened. And here we are. And this should tell, instead of saying, how could this happen? You should say, people should be more responsible with their weapons. And you should not allow them to just be out in a drawer or on a table.
It
They
was
should be
locked.
locked up. And so
It
you
was
are
locked up.
responsible. You are responsible for a 6-year-old child being able to get your gun and take it to school and use it.
It was locked
So-
up. The gun was locked.
Stephen, you've got to stop. I know you made your point, but you can't keep talking. You can't keep
But I
talking.
can't
over
tell
again.
him when
You
he's
gotta let
saying,
him stop.
Stacey, that
I
the
don't
gun was
care.
out.
I don't care. Stop talking
I'm not talking over anybody. Why are you yelling?
Okay.
because you were.
I'm not.
All right. Go on
I
with the show.
asked you. I said, Stephen, please stop talking so he can finish his
He had
point.
finished talking, so I was
No,
saying,
he
hey,
did not.
it
He
was
did
locked.
not. He did not. I don't care if it was wrong. He thinks you're wrong, but he lets
I
you
didn't
talk.
say anything was wrong. I'm saying we can have a conversation, Stacey, without you losing your mind.
And
We can
have a
talk. We can
conversation,
talk to each
Stephen,
other. I'm not trying to
we can
talk
have a
over anybody. I'm trying to
conversation,
communicate with somebody,
without
Stacey.
you. We can have a
You don't have to
conversation
yell
Stephen,
at
without
people.
you constantly interrupting people.
I didn't interrupt anybody. I'm having a conversation like I am with you right now. You don't even understand how to have a conversation.
Yes, I do.
I'm not interrupting anybody. I'm interrupting you right now. But when he stops talking, then I start talking. And I can say, oh, look, Todd, this is where you're wrong. And then he can say, I'm not wrong. And then we can have a dialogue. Look up dialogue, Stacey. You just want to yell at me and tell me I'm talking over somebody, and I'm not.
It's not going to work that way. It's not going to
No,
work.
it's not going to work that way because something's really wrong here. Really wrong here, Stacey. We're just having a conversation. Nobody's mad. Nobody's yelling. Nobody's upset. Nobody's yelling but you, Stacey.
Stop talking.
Like Nas. Sounds like Nas is coming in.
That is not. So back to this article I have on AP. It says authorities in the Virginia city where a 6-year-old shot and wounded his teacher will not seek criminal charges against the child in a decision that was anticipated by legal experts. Newport News police have said that the boy used his mother's 9mm handgun in the January 6th shooting at Rich Neck Elementary School. A lawyer for the child's mother has previously stated that the weapon, which was legally purchased, was secured on a high closet shelf and had a lock on it. It doesn't say that it was locked. It says it had a lock on it.
Oh, okay.
Well,
yeah.
When we were told about this story, when we were told tonight,
wait a minute.
we were told that it was in a locked spot.
That the prospect that a 6-year-old can stand trial is problematic because he wouldn't have the competency to understand the legal system and what a charge means. They are still considering if they're going to, any adult will be held criminally accountable. We've got Nas on. Nas, do you want to speak to what that means for the legal system and what that means for that teacher suing her administration of her school because she says they knew that child had a gun all day. They just couldn't believe a 6-year-old would really bring it. They had heard it because I know 6-year-olds do show and tell. That's what they do. That's what he can understand. So he showed it and other people knew it. And guess what? The adults didn't believe it until she got shot. Nas.
I think we got this one right. Like if we go back to the recording from the day we talked about this, I think we got this one right. I think the majority of us said, okay, 6-year-old can't stand trial, of course. You can't actually charge a 6-year-old. There's going to be something that happens with the parents. And of course, we said if the teacher survives, of course, the lawsuit's going to be crazy. And her lawyer is going to write a number down. And sorry, y'all just going to have to pay that number. Because good luck having a fight with the teacher who was shot by a 6-year-old public. Like, you're not going to win that fight. So, yeah, back to Brink's truck up, cut the check. But
I don't think that's going to happen. I don't think that's going to happen because when I saw the interview, the lawyer said they had not heard back from the administration. They had not heard back from the school board of education. And at that time, they did not entertain the teacher's lawsuit.
Okay, Stacey, think about.
I mean, what you're saying is right, but they're not responding.
Let me say this. Think about the trail of events to where they wouldn't be liable. Think about how many things they would have to get right that could have stopped this to where they wouldn't be liable. Think about how much they'd have to be perfect that day. And this just was some kind of black swan event that happened. No, there was a lot of mistakes made, and it's not going to hold up well. They're getting the money, Stacey. I'm telling you. Ain't no way you beat that lawyer has aces. You ain't beating that hand.
So I want you to see this article. I'm going to share this. This is an AP article. It says the same 6-year-old Virginia boy who shot and wounded his first grade teacher constantly cursed at staff and teachers, tried to whip students with his belt, and once choked another teacher until she couldn't breathe.
What?
Like lack of institutional control.
A 6-year-old? You got to be kidding.
This is what it says right here. This is an AP report. I'm not making it up.
You got
Steven.
No, I mean, if that's true, then that's just like the other guy that shouldn't be in school because he's got so many problems. Then this kid shouldn't be in school. There should be an alternative school for people like this. Even if he's actually hurt somebody and he's always threatening and hitting people, he has to do something. If he doesn't have good parents or something, maybe you can get him an ROTC for little kids or something. I don't know. Or for whatever, because these people don't need to be in school with people who are not going to be violent and be horrible to each other. If he's that much of a problem and he's already hurt a teacher, then he needs to go. He needs to be somewhere out of this environment.
How difficult is it to restrain a 6-year-old? Come on.
He must be a pretty big kid. I don't know, Keith. I don't know.
So
none of this makes sense. I will stand by that. None of this makes sense.
Yeah.
I don't know what it is.
Let me read this article. This is an AP article too. It says 2 days before the shooting, the same 6-year-old slammed Zwerner's cell phone and broke it. He was given a 1-day suspension, but when he returned to her class the following day, he pulled the 9mm handgun out of his pocket and shot her while she sat at a reading table.
In his pocket too. Man, that kid is so out of here. I would put, I don't care if he is 6 years old.
Is his first name Billy? He's the new Billy the Kid.
Hey,
all right. So the choking incident by that same 6-year-old is described in the notice was confirmed by the teacher. She said that in 2021, and this is 2023, the boy came up behind her. She sat in a chair in the front of the class, locked his forearms in front of her neck, and pulled back and down hard.
Well, you know what? Hey,
the teaching assistant pulled the boy off of her.
I'll tell you one thing.
He said, wait a minute. She first reported the incident to school administrators, but did not receive the kind of supportive response she had hoped for them. She said, I didn't feel safe for the rest of the year because I knew if they didn't protect me when he choked me and I couldn't breathe, then they wouldn't protect me, my kids, or my colleagues if he did something not as harmful.
Yeah, the school needs to be sued. The school needs to be sued.
So that lawyer going boat shopping. That's a done deal. But the question again, when you have this preponderance of guns all over the country and all of these people who claim to be Second Amendment advocates tell us how they're so responsible with their guns and gun safety and everything else, but we have incidents like this which show that is not the case. So there's your danger. There's your imminent threat that's been going on. We had a school shooting today where a kid was sent home the other week, and he searched every day because he had
we just said that
things before. So.
Yeah, we just started with that. We said he was on a school safety plan.
I missed all that. I'm sorry.
Yeah, he was on a school safety. No. I'm just telling you, he was on a school safety plan where he had to get searched. And we asked Keith, why didn't Keith take the gun away from him or someone in that position?
Yeah, let me just say this.
Why did Keith allow the search as a constitutional conservative? Why would you allow unlawful searches?
No, that was not unlawful. It's not unlawful. But I want to say this, though. I do want to say this. I agree with Nas. I have to agree with you, Nas, on some of that. But here's where we differ. And I know you don't agree with me on this, but I would say train the kids. If the kids are properly trained on how to use it and the
Oh
guns,
no.
after you train them, let them know, and this is through training. Everybody learns this. Everybody that learns to shoot a gun, they know the dangers, and also the instructor would not hesitate to shoot that person if they got out of control. So the instructor has a handgun, just like the other person has a handgun learning. If you get out of line, then you get shot, and that would be a justifiable self-defense shooting because it is an imminent threat to the victim. And that boy was an imminent threat to the teacher and the students. If someone were in there and they had shot that boy, I would say, unfortunately, that would be justified.
Okay,
But
so
they would
look
probably still go to jail for shooting a little kid, no matter what the kid was doing.
Most
so
likely,
look at this article.
it would
It
be.
says the same AP article says a detailed timeline describes how Zerner, the teacher, 3 other teachers, and a guidance counselor were involved in airing concerns about the child possibly having a gun. The assistant principal, Ebony Parker, they said if the assistant principal, Ebony Parker, had acted on the information she was provided, then the shooting of Miss Zerner would not have happened.
See, Stephen, you were right.
Zerner went to former assistant principal. That means she obviously they knew she knew and they fired her, but they say former assistant principal Parker's office at about 11:15 a.m. to advise her that the shooter seemed more off than usual and was in a violent mood. It also says the boy had threatened to beat up a kindergarten student and angrily stared down the school security officer in the lunchroom.
There you
And
go.
about 11:45 a.m., another teacher learned that the boy had told students he had a gun in his backpack. Didn't I tell you 6-year-olds know about show and tell? He couldn't have gone in that school all day and not have told someone. It says 11:45, another teacher learned that the boy had told students he had a gun in his backpack.
The school.
The teacher searched.
You're right.
The teacher searched the backpack at about 12:30 and found no gun because about then he put it in his pocket. Remember the teacher who got shot said he took it out of his pocket?
He should have been searched. And
the same teacher was made aware that the shooter had taken something out of his backpack right before she searched his backpack. And the shooter put it in the pocket of his hoodie before going out to recess.
Yeah.
Then the teacher raised concerns to the former assistant principal again. Said the student had small pockets, insinuating that he could not possibly have. The assistant principal said the student had small pockets and said he could not possibly have a gun on his person.
Yeah,
they said the assistant principal should have called the police. Instead, she did not follow proper protocol and chose to do absolutely nothing. Cousin Todd. Okay. I mean, Keith. Let's start with Keith and Cousin Todd.
Yeah, I'm going to say that the 9mm is kind of big for a little pocket like that for a child with hands that are small. 9mm, that's a big gun. That's a big handgun, number one. And number two, he should have been searched immediately. His person should have been searched if they had already suspected that. So that would have been a reasonable search. It would have been reasonable because of a suspected carrying of a gun. So illegally. So yeah, that should have been done. So they ought to be sued. Nas was right about that. That the school, they're going to have to give up some money.
Cousin Todd.
Well, I'm sure this little boy was white. And when you're white,
here we go with
they
that.
don't treat you the way you would be treated if you were black. Because if he were black, they would have strip searched that little boy so fast your head would have spun.
Speculation.
But, and he was a problem child anyway. And when he told that he had a gun, his parents should have been called up to the school and he should have been dealt with. But instead, you had these other white people saying, oh, no, it's impossible. I can't believe that. Yeah. And so here you are. Again, but he should not have had access to that gun, like I keep saying. the parent is to blame.
Okay, Stephen, I'm going to read this and you can respond. It says the third and fourth teachers conferred again. The teacher called the school's office, shared what she knew with the fourth teacher because he came back from recess and one of the kids said, "Hey, he showed me a gun during recess."
Oh,
The
Stacy.
teacher called the school's office, said what she knew. The fourth teacher said the information to the vice principal, who is no longer the vice principal, who said she was aware of the threat and that the student's backpack had been searched. The third and fourth teachers conferred again, and the fourth teacher returned to the assistant principal's office again, where a guidance counselor was raising similar concerns about the student having a gun. The guidance counselor asked if he could search the child for a weapon, to which the assistant principal said no, because the child's mother was arriving soon to pick him up. Then 45 minutes later, his teacher was shot in her left hand and upper chest.
I guess these people were too scared to search the kid's person to pat him down, or maybe they're too ignorant. Maybe teachers shouldn't be patting. I don't know what's wrong with these people. We checked his backpack and he didn't have a gun, but everybody keeps telling us he has a gun. Like you've been saying, Stacy, it's show and tell. This kid has a gun. This kid has a gun. Why don't we search his pockets, or maybe he's got it stuck down in his underwear? We don't know. Maybe we got to maybe put a little search on. No, you can't search any kids. Are you crazy? He's 6 years old. Don't put your hands on him. I don't know. Call the cops. Hold him somewhere in a room, and let somebody. I don't know. The captain of police search him. I don't know. But if people knew and they did nothing about it, then they are all so guilty. If kids said we saw a gun, then they saw a gun. You got to take it seriously. If there's two adults here that know it, nobody's doing anything. This should be a huge lawsuit, and it's a shame. It's a shame because this never should have happened. Because responsible people in the school, they're probably too worried about the next time they're going to have somebody in the school that shouldn't be in the school. They want to do something that's like teach a certain way. I don't know what it is, but they're not trying to keep anybody safe in these schools. If people say they have a gun, take it seriously and pat the kid down and see if he has a gun. They look to his backpack. That's great. That's 50%. But he has a person. Search his person. I don't understand why they didn't do it. Then none of this still, I will say it for the 100th time, none of this makes any sense. And it was criminal the way the kid got to do something so criminal. And it's so sad for him. He's got to live with the rest of his life. The woman does. It's sad for her. It's sad for everyone involved, but it never should have happened, because it's not sad for the people who were in charge, who did not even do a little tiny bit of whatever job that normal people do when it comes to a kid.
So, Stephen, you see how, wait a minute, Todd, wait a minute. Stephen, see how that worked? No one interrupted you. Whether they agreed with what you had to say or not, no one said a word. They let you talk uninterrupted. They didn't have a comment. They didn't say what you were saying was wrong.
You know why, Stacey?
Anything? No, stop. Just stop.
Stacey, you know why? Because my point was so succinct. Because my point was so succinct.
Just stop. It has nothing to do with your point. It has to do with the fact that you need to learn manners, just like everyone else has manners. Yes, you do.
Stacey,
that's rude.
You need to know how you have a dialogue. Look it up. You don't just have one person talk. If he stops and I want to say something, then I stop and he says something. That's a dialogue. That's not talking over somebody, Stacey. You're conflating the two. That's a you problem.
You know why? Wait a minute. You know why I'm not conflating the two? I'll tell you why I'm not conflating the two.
You are.
Because this is a freaking show.
I really don't understand you.
It's not a conversation that you have with friends.
Well, isn't a show good if you do have a conversation with people?
There goes Nas.
Does his typical little tantrum. Can I add one more thing?
It's her tantrum, not mine.
I got you. Just think about the circumstances we're talking about. To expect a school to actually act in a way to stop this, like this is a black swan, 1 in a billion event, and for everything to go wrong, everything just had to line up the right way and terribly. Right. So
You're
And
right.
they all had to be
We
white.
expect the school to be able to stop something like this. No, it's not. Are they still liable? Yes, they're still going to be liable. But ultimately, what it comes down to is, again, our issues with guns and our inability to make sure that the people who have access to guns are qualified and should have access to those guns. But look, you drop. Think about every elementary school you know or middle school you know. If you put this same scenario there, like the chances of stopping it are really, really small. Anybody who's worked in the school understands it's like herding cats when you're dealing with little kids. You just got this report in that this kid may have a gun. Okay, so we're going to send Mr. Johnson up there to check his backpack. Such and such just broke his nose, and he's in the nurse's office. He's crying. The other teacher, we got some kids who are sick. They're coughing everywhere. Somebody just threw up in all, like the things that happen in the school.
Right.
Like
I
this is
understand.
almost impossible to really like. I don't know what we would expect from them. But go ahead, cousin Todd. I'm sorry.
I'm going to have to disagree with you. I have personal experience with that, the gun thing. When there's a gun, that takes precedence over the throw up, over the writing on the chalkboard, over the fight, there was a gun. And again, if that child was black, believe me when I tell you,
Speculation.
they would have strip searched him, body cavity searched him.
Speculation.
They would have found out whether or not he had a gun.
Speculation.
And this was a problem child anyway. So that should have been taken care of. And that little silly vice principal had no business with
Todd,
that
whose
position.
name is Todd, the person you called a silly vice principal, her name is Ebony Parker.
Yeah, she's silly.
What you trying to say, Stacey?
That Todd is trying to make this a racial thing.
No,
whereas
no.
the assistant principal is probably African American.
You said probably based on a name.
Can we stop interrupting Todd and let him talk?
Oh, listen at this. Oh, listen at this. He's trying to come for you.
No, Stacey interrupted you. Stop interrupting, Stacey.
Listen at him.
Not here.
Get a life, Stephen. Get a life.
Right.
Yeah, get a life.
Right.
Get a life.
Okay.
So on my screen, you see the Protect Education rally. It took place March 13th outside the Gilliard Center for Performing Arts in South Carolina. They're all based in a particular brand. It took place before the Board of Trustees met to discuss issues such as increasing wages and compensations for teachers. Now, they say they're all based in a particular brand of religious identities that sociologists are calling white Christian nationalism. Progressive activist and psychologist Bonnie Cleveland awed at the rally. In schools, white Christian nationalists are targeting social emotional learning, sex education, Black history, and LGBTQ students. They say that this manager of this Low Country Up is Good political action committee spoke at the rally where demonstrators were seen with signs, including one that said, "White Christian nationalism oppresses sexuality, gender, women, and racial minorities." Now, this is a concern, Cousin Todd, or Keith, that includes race, includes race, sex, or gender, and sexual preference. This is the type of thing, Keith, if you can see the article by Fox News, that is a problem. Board members were sued for religious discrimination after barring student teachers from the Christian university. What do you say to that?
First of all, whenever I hear the word Christians, whenever I hear that Christians are persecuted or are attacking, as you said, you read there, the Christians were attacking Black history or history, African American history, or what have you. That is that is not true. Let me just say it's not true, because what they are talking about, what that really means is woke. progressive Black history, which is based on Marxism, and CRT, which is critical race theory, and all of that stuff about diversity and I'm Black, and I need a one up on somebody else. No, that is what they are attacking, and I welcome that attack. I am Black, and I attack it too, because that is not according to our founding principles. It's totally diametrically opposed to our Declaration principle that all men are created equal and that God is the creator, which they acknowledge, and he is the giver of rights and life and establishment of government to protect those rights. And all Blacks are under that same under that same authority, that they have the right to be protected by government only as they are pursuing their happiness. They have the right, and nobody is attacking that but the left. The left on the other side is the one who is oppressing success and capitalism and free markets. So
Okay.
that's what's happening to Blacks, and yet they're blaming it on a conservative Christian worldview. That's not true.
Anybody want to address that?
Yeah, so when we get to the beginning of private schools in America, it's based on the idea of Brown versus Board, the idea that schools would no longer be segregated, and immediately the response from especially white Christians was to come up with these different private entities. They created these different schools for the purpose of keeping segregation going. So, which is why the country is still as segregated as it is when it comes to schools. Keith's point, I'm not even going to address that. He could use the woke CRT argument on any topic that you bring up. He's going to say those things, so it doesn't really matter. Let me just speak to what you're actually bringing up, which is there's a case in Michigan where two people, a husband and a wife, are teaching their child, homeschooling their child, and they're teaching him Nazi propaganda. But there's no constitutional way to stop them from doing that. So they're going to be able to do it. And with this huge homeschooling boom that we're having, where a lot of people on the right are anti-institution and they're against all things that are American made, that are the basis of American society going forward, they want to opt out of these things. Now, the problem is a lot of people aren't qualified to homeschool and they're going to do a really bad job of it. And then the other part is the socialization of that child. I don't know if you've been around a lot of people who can homeschool. There are some who are well-adjusted, but there are others who never have that growing up experience of meeting your peers, understanding how to deal with a bully, the pressure of having homework due, the pressure of, you like a girl in your class. How do you like all of the different things that you kind of figure out as a child amongst your peers and, socialize yourself to become a normal human being. And this is how you meet some kids who are always online and they're extremely awkward, not really good at looking people in the eye or handshake or just being normal amongst people because they have to stay in their phone because they become so, anti-social because of the way that they were brought up. So this homeschooling boom is going to be a problem. And the Christian nationalist wing of this, and we've seen a lot of this within Trump with the Proud Boys and all these other people, they didn't just disappear. They're raising their children and teaching them all the racist nonsense they were taught. So yeah, this is a problem.
I'm all for homeschool. Hallelujah.
Okay.
All
So,
right.
Cousin Todd,
To go back,
go back to what?
can I get there?
No, because it depends. We don't have much time for you to go back.
To go back to what Keith was saying about these Christian values.
Okay.
We broke away from Europe for that reason.
Yes.
See, they were all Catholics, and you had to be Catholic, and so they said they didn't want to practice Catholicism. They want to be able to practice any religion they want.
Yes.
So to come here and then double down on that is ridiculous. And DeSantis is simply being racist because this woke thing, and I wanted to find out from you, what does woke mean? What is the definition?
Woke has to do with the idea
Has
that
to do with.
equity means doesn't mean what it used to mean, which is fairness. Fairness meaning all men are created equal, therefore ought to be treated equally, the same. But they don't treat people the same.
That's not what woke means. Okay, I'm
Well,
moving on. You didn't give me the
Well,
definition.
let me show you a definition of what woke means since he brought it up.
That's a liberal definition. That's
woke,
the progressive.
What does it mean? Wikipedia says within the decade of the 2010s, the word woke, the colloquial, passively voiced past participle of wake, obtained the meaning politically and socially aware among Black Lives Matter activists.
Yeah, that's the progressive definition.
I know you didn't laugh after that terrible attempt to give a definition that you just made a minute ago.
I made it a very
woke
reasonable.
is, of course, just a new way of saying conscious. I'm a kid who grew up in the 90s, and we presented it as conscious. Are you conscious, brothers? Meaning understood what was going on.
Right. Not
and
exactly.
Aware of the conditions of the place that you lived. And that's all it was.
That's all it was.
People started saying woke online, and before you know it, because typically right wingers like to take words and abuse them.
You deny it.
Like critical race theory.
For everything they don't like. So anything they don't like, oh, that's woke. That's woke.
That's woke or critical race theory.
We went from political correctness in the 90s to woke now. This is their catch-all for anything they don't like. They will say it amongst any argument, as you heard Keith attempt to do when she asked him about
school.
But you deny law. You deny the laws of nature. You deny reality.
Right.
You and
Tom. I deny that you can read.
You deny.
I want to move on to DeSantis and how these people are trying to. They're really racist.
This isn't DeSantis, but we can move on to it. This was in South Carolina, but go ahead. I'll bring in DeSantis.
Well, they're all doing this. The Republicans want to ban any Black studies. Now, I asked Stephen and Keith if they learned about Harriet Tubman when they were in school and Martin Luther King. They said yes. So now, all of a sudden, it's called critical race theory or wokeness. And when it's just learning history, this case, particularly Black history. Now, DeSantis wants to ban it. This is the place where woke goes to die, he said, but he's not banning European history and studies. He's not banning Chinese culture and language. He's not banning French culture and language. He's not banning German culture and language. He's not banning Italian language and culture. He's not banning Japanese language and culture. He's not banning Spanish language and culture, just Blacks.
So it says here, and I don't know, Stephen, I don't know if he left us or what, but he's no longer on here, and I did not remove him. It says here, DeSantis's anti-woke law remains blocked in Florida colleges. U.S. District Judge Mark Walker determined the anti-woke law is positively dystopian. Florida remains unable to enforce the Stop Woke law touted by Governor Ron DeSantis in light of a federal appeals court ruling last Thursday that keeps the policies on hold for colleges and universities. The 11th U.S. Circuit Court of Appeals denied a request from the DeSantis administration and higher education officials to block an injunction that determined the law restricting how race can be taught in schools was unconstitutional, ensuring that state officials are barred from carrying out the measure for now. While the groups that challenge the state are claiming victory over the ruling, DeSantis officials say the state will ultimately prevail once the case is heard. Keith, what is your comment on that?
Well, I say this is my way. Though, if I were governor, this is just what I would do. I know it's not what Nas would agree with, but I'm going to say it this way. If it were me, I would not ban. I said I would not ban woke education or, let's just say African American studies. I would say teach the positive and the negative side, both. Teach both of that. Let every idea come into the discussion, just as we try to do here. Okay? I would say let let my view come in. Let Keith Hardeen come in and speak and talk about what he knows about African American history, and let Todd come in and speak about what he knows about African American history. Let Nas come in and speak about what he knows about African American history. So let's have a showdown. Let's talk about it. All of these different aspects. And if some contradict others, well, let the student figure out what they want to believe. That's what I think free speech is all about. It really is. And that's what equality is all about. That's what fairness is all about. Let the individual decide what they want
Okay.
to believe, what they
Nas,
want to go with.
Nas, this political offer, this political article says professors must be able to discuss subjects like race and gender without hesitation or fear of a state reprisal. Go ahead.
Well, I'm glad Keith at least admitted that he doesn't support this, because that would be the ultimate case of big government. When you decide you want state governments to come in and disrupt and change the curriculum, it's a terrible idea. The idea that me, Keith, and Stephen, and whoever else should be able to go to a college and talk about history. No, we should not. We're not qualified. I should not be a speaker at a college. I'm not qualified to speak as a historian at a college. There are people with degrees who spent their whole lives on that one topic who should be speaking there. Now, when students want to invite somebody who most of the student body are not going to want to hear, and the students show up and boo that person, that's free speech as well. That's going to happen. If you go to the University of Chicago, you can bring in any right-wing Republican you want, and that person is going to be cheered, and he's going to have a lot of fans there. They'll sell a lot of books on that tour. But if you go to Berkeley, California, guess what? That person is not going to be very popular and not probably going to be invited much. But this has nothing to do with curriculum. This is DeSantis playing to the cheap seats, the stupid people who can't understand that woke and CRT are being used, again, as a dog whistle to constantly parade them around different issues, but never get to issues that actually affect them. So it's just running a con. He's going to lose eventually. But think about what this does for your schools. So how many bright minds will decide I'm not going to go to school in Florida? Or how many homegrown Florida students say I'm going to go to school out of state? I don't want to be connected to this. I don't want my school accreditation possibly having some problems later on down the line. So ultimately, this dude is, again, hurting his own state, playing to the cheap seats, the unwashed and two-toothed people of rural Florida. And people like Keith are gullible enough to always fall for it. So why not keep playing that song and dance? So, and do y'all know that DeSantis worked at Guantanamo Bay and oversaw torture? Like, this is the guy we're talking about, right? Y'all know that, right?
Well, what I know is that he was threatening, which is what he does, but there's never any results. Remember what he was going to do to Disney? He was going to disband them and get them out of Florida. Whatever happened with that? He doesn't even discuss that anymore because he knew that wasn't what he was planning to do. But he knew that Stephen and Keith would love it. And so he just played to them because he know, like I said, Donald Trump always knows his audience. And unfortunately, he knows how dumb or smart you are. And if you are dumb, he loves it. He said, I love the uneducated.
Speaking of which, Donald Trump insinuated that Ron DeSantis was gay.
Oh, come on.
I don't know why he would do that and what would be the point of that.
Did he really?
What do you mean? He wants to dirty him in any way that he can. He looks at him as the competition, so he's going to throw whatever charge that the MAGA base will eat up. He'll come up with a new nickname as many times as he can until one sticks. He tried Meatball Ron. Now we're moving into the gay area.
Where did you find him say that? Where did he say that? When?
I'll pull that up. But in the meantime, President Trump called everybody he knew to say, hey, I'm going to be arrested Tuesday. Get out there and protest for me and fight for me. And he wasn't arrested Tuesday. Matter of fact, they're having some sort of things going on in the New York District Attorney's Office that they're saying has to do with the New York District Attorney's Office being unorganized. So he wasn't arrested Tuesday. He wasn't arrested Wednesday. Keith why would former President Trump ask all these people to come out on his behalf and almost kind of make it like a rallying cry for something not positive to happen? He's already did this once on January 6th. Wasn't a
I
good
don't know.
idea.
I don't know, Stacey. I have a lot to verify because I don't know if he's really saying all the things that you're saying. I'd like to see it. But here's something I want to ask
You
Nas.
did not see him say protest for me?
No, I didn't see that. But I want you guys to ask. I want to ask you, who is this brother? Who is this black man, this district attorney in Chicago, who says he's going to take Trump down? Who is this guy, Nas? You know a lot about these people. This
Okay,
black.
Nas, don't answer that.
Talking about New York.
No, he said Chicago. Don't answer that because he's trying to take me off and hijack my show.
No,
And I'm not
no.
going there.
That's a part of your. That's a
Oh,
part
man.
of. That's a part of your question.
No,
Because-
that wasn't. I didn't say anything about a guy coming saying to Trump or
You're gonna
trying to
take him
take Trump
down.
down in Chicago.
But you're talking about Trump. You asked
DeSantis.
about Trump and
And you said you missed the story, so let's move
Yeah.
on. You didn't
So,
know about the
no,
story.
but this
He's
relates.
surprised, I guess.
And this guy, this district attorney, he's a district attorney, and this relates to the story of why he was not arrested or why he was or going to be arrested. I mean, indicted. So it's the district
Yeah.
attorney.
So Keith, who hasn't read the story and was just made aware of it, now has another question.
Nas.
Well,
And it's not
let's deal
Chicago.
with this, though, Stacey.
No, I don't want to deal with that.
You
No,
know what?
I'm not talking about what he said.
Oh.
I'm talking about going in the same realm that we're talking about.
Okay.
Where me and Ty kind of made the point that this turns into Trump fundraising. Are
Right.
these people really going to send their money in again when he tells them he needs money?
Yes,
For
Lord.
Are they really going to fall?
Yes, yes, yes.
I hope so.
I heard you see that.
So how much are you going to send, Keith?
Well, I don't have a great lot of money to send to him, but I would certainly like to see him get money. I want Trump to win. I want him in that White House in 2024.
Well, why don't you give him a couple $100?
Well, maybe I will. I might. I'm not going to say
All
that.
right.
I'm not going to say.
So look at the screen I put up here. This is Politico.com. It says, I just want to show you. Let's see who wrote it. Politico.com, written by Josh Gerstein, Kyle Cheney, and Erica Orden on March 18, 2023 at 8:44 a.m., updated at 10:42 a.m. same day. And what it says, Keith, is Trump predicts imminent arrest and calls for protests. The former president and 2024 GOP candidate urged his supporters to take our nation back over unprecedented potential criminal charge.
Yeah.
Protest, this is what he said, take our nation back. So you said you didn't know he said that. I just showed you he said that.
Oh, very good. Well, I agree with him. I agree.
All right. So you agree? Did you agree with him saying the same thing for January 6th?
Yeah, I agree because he said do it peaceably. He did say that, but that was sort of taken out of the way for some reason. I don't know why. But, he said go peacefully.
Maybe that was taken out of the way because we saw the most violent
Oh, really?
in American history.
And what kind of arms did they have? And what kind of arms did they have, my friend?
Okay, well,
What kind of gun?
Even if we play with your little logical fallacy here,
Yeah.
how would they take it back without violence, sir?
Well, they would take it back by, first of all, demanding, or what should have been demanded, that the judges, that they hear in court a case, and they never heard it.
There was no court that day. It was a certification
hear it in court
of President Biden. There was no court there that day.
Yeah, well, they should have heard later on. The judges should have heard, but they did not hear the case. They would.
Oh, I see. What he's saying
there was
is,
no case there to be heard.
Yes,
what he's saying is, when they took this to court, they went to court over 60 times.
Yes.
And they said You don't have a case. Now listen to me carefully. Now I know you don't know anything about the law,
Right.
but Donald Trump's lawyers never said, "Hey, judge, there was election fraud and we can prove it." They never said that. You know
I
why?
know that.
Because they would be disbarred and or fined.
And why would they be disbarred for saying?
Because you cannot lie in court to a judge.
How would they
If
know?
you are a legal representative of that court, that is your if you're found guilty, that is your sentence, disbarment. If you are a whatchamacallit of the court, what do you call that when you're legally bound to the court as an attorney? There's a name for that.
I
Anyway,
don't know the name, but
Todd,
anyway, that's why they did not do that. None
officer
of those
the court.
lawyers,
I think it's an officer of the court.
none of those lawyers did that
How do
because,
you know for sure?
oh my gosh.
Okay, Todd, move on with what you want to say about the indictment against President Trump and what Pence said. What Pence said. He said some pretty rotten things about Buttigieg.
Yeah. Donald Trump said he was going to be indicted for sure and arrested. And he didn't know that, but he knew people like Stephen and Keith because he knows his audience and he loves uneducated people. He said that. He knew that they would fall for it and get all anxious and say, I want to give him some money, right, Keith? I want him to, I'm going to give him. And so you're going to give him a couple $100, right? And you're poor.
No, I didn't say that. I didn't say.
I said, why don't you give him a couple $100? You said, I will. I think I will.
Say that. I didn't say I would. I said I would love to. I said I just may consider it. I didn't say I would.
Okay. All right. Okay. You're splitting hairs here. Why don't you do this? You give him 100 and get your boyfriend to give him 100.
I would love to give him $100.
Okay. Okay.
But
So now, all right. So he said that so that people can do this. His supporters can get together and scheme and say, who could we kill or who could we beat up or who could we got to get him some money and all that. So he knows his people. So that's what Keith and Stephen are doing right now. Stephen, not so much because nevertheless, then Pence backed Donald Trump. He wants to play both sides of the fence. He backed Donald Trump by saying this is kind of like it's politically motivated. And it isn't. And I often wondered, remember Bill Clinton and Monica Lewinsky? How the Republicans pounced on that and they would not stop. And
how long did they do that?
For years.
And how long? And was Clinton indicted?
He was impeached.
Okay, but was Clinton also cast out of every social network? Or was Clinton also?
Wait. You're conflating the two. Just a minute.
No, I'm only saying what's fair.
Listen, what happened
at the time, sir?
They went after Bill Clinton, and mind you, I remember Newt Gingrich going after Clinton. Was that Newt Gingrich?
Yes.
Yep.
And I think Newt Gingrich was having an affair while he was going after him.
How do you know that?
Because he cheated on his wife and he got married to another woman.
Okay. Was he?
And so,
all right, so make your point real quick, Todd. We're almost out of time. I got to cover one more thing.
Okay, and then I'll let you go, Nas. So then Pence, what the punk he is, he was trying to side with Trump, but then halfway go against him, trying to play both sides of the fence. And also with the comment he made about Pete Buttigieg, which was a recycled joke about maternity leave. And he said maternity, just like the people from Fox News, they call it maternity leave, not paternity leave. And so he made a joke about that, just like Tucker Carlson said something about, I guess he's trying to figure out how to breastfeed, maternity leave. And what actually happened was he had twins and one of them were very sick. They were born premature, and the one weighed 5 pounds. And so he was in the NICU and on a
Ventilator.
ventilator. And that's a very dangerous
Serious thing. So of
situation
course the
for.
parent would want to be with their child while they're on a ventilator and need time off. I mean, just like Vice President Pence did not appreciate people coming after him and his family in the Capitol during the insurrection, saying, hang Pence and his family. I mean, people care and love their families. You care and love your family, don't you, Todd?
Absolutely. So
Don't
I
you,
would
Keith?
have definitely taken off to be with my. Now, these are the same sick Republicans that say have the baby no matter what, even if it kills you, and then leave it there and you go on to work. So the point was, um, the baby was born premature. I don't know if anybody knew that. And the baby was on a ventilator. So, yes, he took time off to be with his baby. Now, in any other country, they would have praised him for that. But here in America, where you have these sick Republicans, he's villainized for it. So, okay, go ahead, Naj. You were going to say something.
No, yeah, I was just going to say, as far like us speaking about the indictment and everything else, like again, we're in uncharted waters because I don't know where this goes. Can you actually lock up a president? What are you going to have a Secret Serviceman with him in jail? Like, how does that go? Ultimately, I think this dude is just going to have all his chickens coming home to roost, where all these different cases, he's going to have to legally fight all these different cases, and it's going to cost so much money, and it's going to be so ugly because he's done so much. And again, like we said last week, he's probably not the best criminal in the world because he likes to announce his crimes, and he has even tapes of his crimes. So
Right.
yeah, it's a sad state of affairs, man. Good luck with that. Keith.
I think the point of this for the people that are doing it is just so he can never run again. I don't think there'll be jail time for him, but he won't be able to run for president again or any office.
Well,
Yeah,
we'll
Okay.
see
it's
about
a precedent that nobody is above the law. If you do X, Y, and Z at a certain point, they're coming.
Yeah.
hey,
So let's move. I want to go ahead, Keith. What did you want to say?
no, I was just going to say, if we don't resolve what happened in the election, like for instance, all of this that was swept under the rug, in the sense that the elections were changed, election laws, election rules were changed unconstitutionally. They were changed by commissioners and by these
Because of the pandemic.
and yes, because of the
Yeah.
pandemic, they were changed, but that still doesn't make it constitutional just because of the pandemic.
Oh, once
So
in a lifetime.
those
event,
were things that were
Once every 100 years.
And again, I don't even want to waste time on this because it's
Of course
stupid.
you
It's
don't.
Yeah.
already been adjudicated.
Well,
President Biden is
time.
almost done with the whole term, and you're still talking about
I don't
this.
know why
But
you
just
don't.
think about this,
But
Keith.
It's
Just
really
think about this.
don't like to
If
talk
you
about
are
that.
counting widgets and there's 50 widgets in a box, but
Yeah.
there's 50 widgets in a mailbox, does that change the number of widgets when I open up the mailbox?
There were a lot of
Votes,
discrepancies.
man. Your man lost. He
They
was
were not
unpopular.
A lot of discrepancies were not visited, and
No, there was no discrepancies. You are lying.
you will see.
Over 60 court
No, you
cases
told us that. You told us
thrown
that
out.
at the beginning
Okay,
of
we're
Biden's
out of time. We're out of time. I
Good
got to go
Lord.
into banking. Today was a very, very important day in American society. Jerome Powell made remarks. Janet Yellen made remarks about this banking crisis we're having in the United States. The Fed raised the interest rates again. Basically, he's not sure about anything. He's got to investigate everything. And Janet Yellen said that the U.S. Secretary of the U.S. Treasury said she's not considering a broad increase in insurance deposits, and that spooked the market today. She's raising questions about what is the backstop for these banks. This is very, very important. One person says, we're not going to insure everybody's money. The other person says, well, we're not sure about anything, and we're just going to have to investigate anything, and we'll just keep raising the rates to try to control inflation and try to get back down to 2%. and we'll see what happens. But you can have confidence in the Fed. But then Treasury Secretary says, we're not backing everybody. Who wants to start with this?
Keith.
Yeah, well, it's real simple. When you have an issue like banking, it never goes away. This is an issue that's always going to have to be regulated. It's an issue that's always going to have to be monitored and adjusted to. Excuse me, y'all. And if you don't, you reap the whirlwind. We found this out in 2008. We found this out in 1928. So the idea that you would allow these folks to run rampant again for the idea of chasing profits is insanity. Like, this is what it is. Look, I understand everybody wants to bow down to capital and say they are all-knowing and everything else, but their industry has greed baked into it, and that very greed will destroy your economy if you don't put in regulations and guardrails to make sure it doesn't go too far. That's the only way to do it. And again, that movie I tried to get y'all to watch last week, The Big Short. It's an old movie, came out around the time after the meltdown. I want to say 2010. But it's a really good movie. You can watch it for free online. The Big Short. Mm-hmm. It details all of this well. We're right back where we were.
So if you look at this, I'm going to share my screen. A few weeks ago and recently, a few hours ago, Stanhope CEO, this is according to Yahoo Finance, Stanhope CEO Daniel Pinta warned that the fallout from the banking crisis will be substantial and the Federal Reserve must bear the blame. Should the Federal Reserve bear the blame, Keith?
Yes, the government, period. Because anytime the the feds are in charge of all of this stuff, and they are the ones influencing the economy. That's not the way the Constitution, that's not the way, that's not what their job is supposed to be. They're supposed to protect our right to free markets, and they are not. Instead, they are interfering with the free markets. Simple as that. I like to keep it simple. You know, I'm not going to spend a whole lot of time on it because, you know, trying to complicate it only causes people to be more confused. I'll just say that as long as the federal government is involved in all of our affairs, our monetary affairs and everything else, from the kind of toilet paper we use to the kind of toothpaste that we buy, they are involved. So things are going to be rough. And
okay, so but this is the problem, Keith, and Naj, you can answer this. The federal government wouldn't be involved. The problem is this. The Silicon Valley Bank, their management failed really badly. They grew quickly as a bank and they went with high risks and they weren't managed effectively. Now, the feds came in when they knew they were having trouble to try to help them manage these high risks that they were doing, trying to make a ton of money. But by then it was too late.
Exactly.
By then, you know, they had already done a damage. So they had the feds come in to save them. So how is that? You know, you can't have it both ways. You say you want the government out of business, but yet they need the government to save them because they basically what they did was they went to the casino and they bet all their money away. Now they're saying, hey, come give me back this money that I bet away. No, this isn't. Stacey, go ahead, Keith, and then Nas was supposed to come in. Go ahead.
Well, let me just say, when the federal government comes in to save someone, who is really saving that person? Who is saving that industry? It's
you
us.
Are.
That's right. So there again, my money, your money, Nas's money, Todd's money is being spent without our consent to save those who made poor investments or poor management. Simple. It's simple. If that's what you want to continue, then that's what we have.
Yeah, so that goes against everything you just said a minute ago when you talked about the free market. The problem with and why nobody in the world actually has a free market is because the free market would destroy your economy. Why are most people okay with paying this? And like they begrudgingly pay it, like they don't like it. They don't want Main Street to have to pay for Wall Street, so to say. But they understand that if these people wreck the economy, they're the ones who are going to feel the majority of the pain for it. And conservatives get on their high horse. They always talk about, oh, you want a problem solved? Don't get government in. Well, here's another thing you guys really don't understand. markets exist because of government.
No.
The only reason you have contract law, government, you have to have a central body that calls balls and strikes as an umpire in any of these industries for the industry to exist. Otherwise, nobody would believe in the viability of it, and nobody would do good business because they know there would be no lender of last resort to save everybody, and no punishment arm if somebody acts incorrectly within that business. So think about markets, think about contract law, think about weights and measures, think about all these different things that are created by central governments. So
No.
yeah, your right-wing dream of free markets and no government doesn't exist. There's no country that
Free
operates
market.
like that on earth.
Only problem you
So
forgot.
there were 3 banks that went down, and the 4th, Credit Suisse, was brought. So the problem becomes this: you can't keep bailing these people out from stealing. They're stealing the money, basically, and then they want to be bailed out by the people and the government. But yet they say, government, stay away, don't get in it. But the government has to, because of this. There's going to be an investigation by Barr, who is the guy right underneath Jerome Powell. And then from that investigation, they're going to say, okay, we got to put these guardrails up so that you all don't try to steal the money again and do it this way. But to me, that means they'll just find another way to do it.
Yeah. Well,
because greed, what is the thing about greed?
If I knew that, if I went to college and I knew that my parents would not compensate me if I waste my college fund, and I knew my parents were not going to compensate me for it if I wasted it, then guess what? I'm not going to waste it. I'm going to be more
right.
Okay,
right.
Simple as that.
Okay, that's one way of looking at it. Now, the other way of looking at that would be all of those shareholders who want to return, who bought into your hedge fund. They want as much profit as
they can get.
And for that to happen, you have to get rid of those regulations and guardrails and let the market operate on its own. And again, the market overheats, and then we all got to pay for it because what? They're too big to fail, and you fall into the same kind. Socialism for the wealthy, rugged individualistic capitalism for normal class folks. And the sad part is they can convince somebody like Keith that he's on their team.
Right.
Reality, these are the people who want to gamble with your pension. And if we let everything explode and say, okay, government, don't bail them out, you would be the one
without Social Security.
No.
And that you'd be the one without Social Security. You would be. And you know, also, this is about the 9th time they've raised the rate, hiked the rate. I forgot what I was going to say.
Okay, well, I'll stay on that same topic.
The interest rate. This is the 9th time in a row they've done it. The S&P went down. The Dow went down today as Powell spoke at the same time. He spoke the same time that Janet Yellen spoke. What was that about?
Well, let me say this about banking. Nas was right how they will bail them out again, because remember they bailed them out when Barack Obama took office.
Well, they had bailed them out when my boss, George Bush, bailed out who? He bailed out the cars, the automobile dealers.
Right. And so everybody gets bailed out, big business, banks.
Yeah, but they know, they say, hey, I can steal the money. Let's go steal this money and get all the can. They're going to bail us out anyway, because if they don't, everybody's going to lose. So this is free cash.
And so, but I tell you who did not get bailed out, the housing market.
And the housing market is in trouble right now.
And so those people lost. People paying more. They were their mortgages ballooned, and they were underwater. And so a lot of people lost their homes while the banks got bailed out.
You know who else is credit cards? That's the worst one. Credit cards.
They said that they're going to have tighter credit conditions can substitute for rate hikes. But
which is going to be a big problem, because there are a lot of people who
live on credit
cards as a substitute until
for
they
cash.
get payday.
Right. They live on credit.
Constant,
so if the credit, so if they can't get the credit, or the interest rates are too high for that credit, they're going under, and they're gonna default on a lot of things.
Hey, Stacy, we all agree on something. Nas, Todd, Keith. Yeah. All right.
What do we agree on?
What you just said about the credit, credit cards and so forth.
So
that,
I think that goes to the individualistic nature of your thinking, to where the only thing that matters to you is something
Thank you, Nas.
might possibly touch you, which would be credit card debt. You had no idea that if they don't bail these folks out, your pension would be something that's up on the table as a possibility to be a problem, because all of these banks and everything else is so interconnected that the correlated domino effect happens, where when one thing, burns down, it touches on another and another and another. And yeah, Keith, these are real consequences.
And not just that,
if you keep saying that, I'll go.
If you think about it, that means the teachers, firefighters, police officers, all the people we depend on, if they lose their pension, who's going to be working?
And those are some of the biggest accounts that those funds fight each other over. Like, you get that policeman or fireman's account or whatever, man, that's just free money. You could, you promise them a small return, and you can really do something with that, because it's just an aggregated amount of money that is supposed to be there, unless you burn it up, like they've been known to do a few times. But yeah, man,
all right.
I think
so.
Like Stacey, think about that Occupy Wall Street moment, though, for a second. We had college students who had degrees who were not able to employ themselves in a way that justified how much debt they had. They occupied cities. And we sent in police forces to kick them in the head and kick them out of those parks, but we never actually addressed those problems, which still persist to this day.
All right. Let's move on to the sad news about Irvo Otieno. He was, let me share my screen. Our thoughts and prayers to his family and his mother in particular, who is crushed right now as she watched a video. If you look at the CNN.com article, this is our roundtable. Surveillance video released by a prosecutor yesterday shows Irvo Otieno being pinned to the floor by multiple security officers at a Virginia State mental health facility in the moments leading up to his death earlier this month. Dinwiddie County Commonwealth's attorney Ann Cable Baskerville's office also released 911 calls about the incidents in which a caller described Otieno as very aggressive and repeatedly asked for an ambulance, saying he was not breathing. Taken together, the video and emergency calls offer further details of the final moments of Otieno, a 28-year-old Black man who died on March 6 as he was transferred from Henrico County Jail to Central State Hospital. 7 sheriff's deputies and 3 hospital employees were indicted by a grand jury on Tuesday on a charge of second-degree murder, according to court documents. In a hearing last week for the charges against the deputies, Baskerville told the court they smothered him to death. We'll start with Keith and Nas and Cousin Todd. Start with you, Keith. How does this happen in America? How does one human being stand by and let another human being do that? Is it them just following, or is it lack of training?
You know me. You know where I stand. Lack of training. We go through this over and over again. I think it's just a lack of training. But again, I don't know the whole story. I just know what you shared. And I would like to investigate and find out more about, like what kind of techniques they use to try to take them down, or what type of techniques. I mean, they say he was aggressive. So what does that mean?
But if you look at the screen I have up here now, it says he is bound by his hands and feet.
Yeah.
So his hands and feet were bound when they did this.
Oh,
He's forcibly taken into a room and dragged into an upright seated position on the floor with his back against a chair. 10 minutes later, he's turned on his side with 3 people holding him. His body jerks, and 5 more deputies and workers moved to pin him to the floor.
Well, that sounds to me like they did that on purpose. It sounds like they tried to definitely hurt him and kill him. And that's what it sounds like based on what you just said. But again, I'm only going by what you just what it says here in the article. So
And that's all we can go by is what is reported by the news. That's all we have to go by since we were not there. But the point is, with these incidences happening and being seen, these people knew they were on camera. They knew there was cameras in their facilities. For them to continue to do this is going to bankrupt our society. I don't know where our society goes from here, because the millions of dollars every time someone gets caught doing this, which first off, they shouldn't be doing in the first place. It's a crime against humanity. It's a crime against a fellow human being. But then on top of that, they get paid millions of dollars month after month, year after year, city after city, county after county. Where does it stop? Go ahead, Keith.
Well,
the only thing that's only thing left to do is only thing left to do on my part, again, taking responsibility for myself. All I can do is obey the law as best I can. And I'm going to do, that's what I'm going to do.
All right. Nas?
Oh, coward. Yeah, so ultimately, society should be judged by how it treats its elderly and its sick and its most downtrodden. So what you see in America is not only a disdain for everybody on the bottom, but a kind of veiled hatred for the people. So this is why you see them treated this way. This is why you see so many people get away with this stuff. And sadly, to address it, you'd have to change a lot of minds who've been so warped and brainwashed into thinking, these people who watch SVU every night, the propaganda that hits your television when you're watching all these different shows where they're showing you how these people are the great citizens who if only the law didn't block them from saving and giving justice everywhere, when in actual reality, most people's interactions with them are terrible and sometimes life-threatening and life-changing. So, yeah, this is sad, and it's really going to have to be a come-to-Jesus moment for a lot of these so-called Christians to actually be what that book tells them to be a disciple of Jesus. Otherwise, we're going to get more of this and more explaining and more calls for training, which actually doesn't address the root of the problem, which is a lot of people in America are individualistic and hate anyone they feel like is below the social ladder, lower on the social ladder. I ain't there.
Thank you. Cousin Todd.
I agree. Now, for example, Keith said what he was going to do so that won't happen to him is obey the laws. You see, that was a way of saying this person didn't obey the law, and that's what happens if you don't obey the law. So
the laws of nature are advancing.
So this is nothing. This is what happens when you get these hooligans and give them a badge, be them black or white. Certain people, this is why I said I think police officers should be college educated. You can't take someone out of high school and make them a cop. You have to be smarter. And so these people who attacked this boy viciously and killed him should be in jail for first-degree murder, not second-degree. But this is what happens. His mother will get a check and bury her child. It is so sad that this continues over and over and over. And just like we were talking about the knee on the neck, you have people like Keith and Stephen saying, oh, no, he died of a drug overdose. No, he was choked to death. When you have your knee on somebody's neck for that amount of time, they're going to die. And so it's just, I don't think this is going to change for quite some time until we start holding these people accountable and suing them personally, where they're personally held responsible, jailed and sued and all that. because to keep making the city pay, and your state pays and pays and pays, and the cop doesn't, nothing happens to him. Maybe he's fired. Then he goes to another state and gets the same job. It's just tragic.
Hey, Stacy, can I make one more comment? Just one more comment.
You wanted to ask Keith, you wanted to ask Stephen to
Go ahead, Keith.
marry.
Yeah, I wanted to say, because of what Nas said, which prompted me to say this, and this is very important. That as a Christian, and Nas said it, he said it right. He did say that, people, and I'm not quoting him exactly, but he said something about Jesus when in his statement that people need to do the right thing, is basically what Nas is saying. So that's what prompted me to say that I'm going to do the right thing and obey the law and follow the words of Jesus, and be important. It's important to me to say that publicly, that if we obey the voice of the Lord and do as he is commanding us to do, then hey, who can persecute you? Yes, you could be persecuted. And see, Todd makes a joke of it, but I'm serious.
No, do you think
for those who are Christians, those who
just because you didn't break the law, they don't kill you? That's silly.
Well, what I'm saying is, those who follow the law, even if they do persecute you because you do what's right, know that God is your justifier and God will protect you. And I believe that. So that is my faith.
Now, how will he protect you? Didn't the boy just get shot up going into his own apartment?
Hey.
He got shot like 50 times. Going into his own apartment. God didn't like him, though, huh?
I didn't say.
God didn't want to be bothered with him. What about the cop that went into a man's apartment and shot him? She thought she was in her own apartment, but God probably didn't like him either. So bump him.
I just said, all I said was I spend my life obeying God, and I'm still here. Okay.
All right.
I said.
All right. Well, God has no favorite person. God loves everyone.
That's right.
Remember that. To our first responders in our communities, you make our lives livable. Thank you, thank you, thank you. To the women and men of the U.S. military for all that you do in sacrificing your lives so that we are free to say whatever we choose on this show. We are forever indebted. On behalf of Aguna, the Nigerian moderate Republican who had the night off, Keith, he just went dark. Oh, there you go. Keith, the constitutional conservative.
Oh.
Stephen, the independent thinker who decided to leave.
Where is Stephen? What did he do? He got mad and took his toys and went home.
And Nas, thank you, Nas, for joining us. He took his toys and went home. And my cousin Todd. Check us out on Instagram at Sporlitiks. Check us out on the Flow Television Network, Stephanie Stallworth. Check us out on Twitch, Twitter, and who else? Twitch, Twitter,
Pornhub.
No, definitely not.
Oh, that's right.
Don't listen to Todd. I'm Stacey Johnson. We'll see you next week. Y'all tire me out. Good night.
I don't know what happened to Stephen. He was ticked off at you tonight.
Stacey might have to go back to Tuesdays. Might have to go back to Tuesdays, because nobody's showing up on.
What do you mean nobody's showing up? They are showing up. You're just trying to change it because Keith is not. I mean, Stephen is not here, and you're mad at Stacey because Stephen left.
No, I'm talking about Aguna. Aguna, man. I miss his interruptions. He doesn't let anybody talk. I miss that.
All right.
Good
night.
Hey, thank you, Todd. Very good, sir. Just remember, follow the Lord. Follow the voice of the Lord. You can do it.
So can you.
Put your back.
I don't think. You know what?
Oh, Keith, hilarious. Todd said, put your back into it.
I don't think your prayers get above your head. That's what some Southerner racist said to a black pastor.
Thank you, Tom.
I don't believe your prayers get above your head.
All right. Good night.
All right, Stacey. See you guys later.
Bye.